Everyone wants it. Until now, Monty Brewster didn't have it.
They tell me you're my only living relative.
But he just made money the old-fashioned way.
You have 30 days in which to spend $30 million.
He inherited it.
If you can do it, you get $300 million. But if you fail, don't get diddly.
Why can't I tell my friends?
Because I don't want anybody helping me out.
What's wrong? Spike, what's wrong? $30 million. The manager's got $30 million. This is a good day, you know.
He can't keep it unless he can spend it and have nothing left but the shirt on his back.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun with this kind of money. Jay, I'd like to hire you as my official photographer.
Hey everybody, it's the Cannon Cruisers. I'm JD.
And I'm Randy, and you're listening to our bonus feature where this week we continue our cruise through the summer sports film catalog that we put together.
That's right. About 20 or so movies we're going for, I guess. This time we decided to cover a movie by Walter Hill as an excuse, more or less.
Yeah, we were just like, we have to watch another Walter Hill movie.
We have to get one out there.
This one is in our sports oeuvre, as we're covering, fits into baseball.
That's true, it does.
And
it technically does.
Stars Richard Pryor, John Candy, Lynette McKee, Stephen Collins, Hume Cronin, and features supporting roles of Jerry Orbach, Pat Hingle, and Tova Feldscha.
Yep.
That's right, folks. We're talking about Brewster's Millions.
But it's not the original Brewster's Millions, Randy.
No, it isn't. As of 1985, this is the 7th adaptation of the 1902 novel.
Yes, that's exactly correct. And this is the first one that we know of that contains baseball in it.
Though I will admit that there are another 3 adaptations of this film after 85, all of which are international market. So you get like a Hindi movie, a Telugu movie, you get a Chinese movie. Yep. So it gets weird. It's just a very basic premise.
Even the original movies have been lost films, apparently.
Yeah, the first 3 versions of it are considered lost films. So, JD, I'll do what we always do. I'll let you start off with, what is this movie about? And then I'll elaborate.
Okay. The movie Brewster's Million is about the main character played by Richard Pryor named Brewster, who turns out he has an uncle who died and left an inheritance to him.
It's an uncle that he didn't know about.
He didn't know about him until this exact moment. So what he sets up and proposes for Brewster is he has 30 days to spend $30 million so he can get $300 million. But to do that, to spend the $30 million, there are stipulations.
Yeah. So here are the stipulations as written out on Wikipedia, because it's just easier to read off because they can be a little bit complicated.
Yep.
So stipulation number 1. Brewster could have taken the so-called wimp clause and gotten a $1 million payout.
And just left.
And just left. He didn't take that. Instead, as JD said, he would receive $30 million, and by the end of 30 days, he would have to spend it all.
But it's not just
if he doesn't spend the $30 million. Don't worry, I'm going to go into it more. If he cannot spend that $30 million in 30 days, the law firm that is representing his uncle, or at least holding the money for his uncle, will receive the $300 million inheritance. Brewster may not own any assets that are not already his at the end of 30 days. So he basically just the shirt on his back. He must get value for the services of anyone he hires.
So he can't just give it away to anybody
he
wants.
can't just give it away to anybody. They have to actually work for it. He may not willfully damage or destroy any intrinsically valuable items he buys.
So he can't just buy a mansion and burn it down.
Yep. Or in the cases that they were using, he couldn't buy any great artworks, like by Picasso, and burn it.
Yeah.
And he may only donate no more than 5% to charity. And he can lose no more than 5% to gambling.
All of these stipulations are put in order for him to not have an easy out to get rid of the $30 million. So it's not like, oh, I'll just give the $30 million to charity. Now where's my $300 million? You can't do that. There's a whole list of rules you got to go through.
Yep.
And it gets complicated.
And the one rule I left out is that he can tell nobody that he has this thing going on.
Yep. Nobody, not even his accountant.
He can't tell his accountant, who is the paralegal who is hired by the law firm to keep track of it.
Yeah.
He can't even tell her.
Or even his friends.
Or his
No one.
friends. He can tell nobody. And as he puts it at the beginning of the film, he goes, I'm going to do something for the next 30 days. I'm going to seem like I'm crazy, but I'm not.
So, from the word go, that's the rest of the movie, is him trying to find a way to spend it. And by the end, can he do it or not? And that's pretty much Brewster's Millions. I mean, you could talk about the individual things he does, but that's more or less the actual story.
So now the actual parts of it that have to do with our general theme of sports is that Montgomery Brewster, played by Richard Pryor, is a minor league baseball player. He used to play for the Cubs in the majors.
For 15 years.
For 15 years, but hurt his arm. And as part of his way of wasting the $30 million, he buys the team, free of charge to them, new uniforms, more training, re-outfits their field, and hires the New York Yankees to hold an exhibition match with them.
Oh, yeah.
So that they can show off a bit to the league at large.
There's quite a bit of baseball in the movie.
There is a lot of baseball in this movie. And it's the only version that has baseball as its key point. Though one of the Indian films has cricket. Probably,
yeah. Like I said, a lot of it was just a bit of a stretch, but you know what? It's a Walter Hill movie. It's got baseball in it. Why not? You know? We'll give it a
Walter
shot.
Hill, who admittedly did this just for a paycheck.
Yeah, because he did Streets of Fire right before this, which was not a success. So he got this one, and it was a success.
Critically not a success, but it did make money back at the box office.
It was successful. It did well. And
so the film made on its opening weekend roughly $10 million. But came in third behind Rambo: First Blood Part 2 and A View to Kill. I'm getting all this information off of Wikipedia.
Yep.
But it ultimately grossed more than $40 million. An additional $5 million internationally on its budget of $30 million.
Yeah. Like I said, it did well for them. It's a pretty hard movie to understand, like, I guess. Would you consider this a more general audience movie, or do you think it's a bit too? You have to get into the weeds a bit.
No, it's a general audience movie. It's a proper PG film because there's some swearing in it.
Yeah.
But no, this is for the general public. This is not Richard Pryor at his. I'm not going to say his height because this is his height of fame, but not the height of his humor, which is a lot more. How you say ribald?
Yeah,
a little bit more raunchier than
I say that. I say that because the general concept of the movie is a bit.
I will admit that the actual rules are complicated, but this is the 7th version of this movie.
That's true.
It's a tried and true concept, like Mr. Deeds. It's a tried and true concept.
That's true. I guess it was kind of a, you know what, we have this idea for a remake. Let's get Walter Hill. He's a director who's put out some hits. Let's get Richard Pryor. He's
that
big.
Originally before it was Walter Hill and Richard Pryor, that they were going to have Peter Bogdanovich and John Ritter.
I could have seen that. John Ritter could definitely have fit this role for sure. So, Randy, since we finally got through the basic gist of it, what were your impressions of Brewster's Millions from 1985?
It is complicated.
That's what I said.
Like that first third of the movie, just explaining the movie, it is complicated.
Yes, trying to just figure out, okay, what can he do? Can he do this? No, he can't do that. Can he do that? Well, I guess he can. Wait a minute, he can't use that stamp? Oh, yes. Yeah, actually he can.
Okay. So there is a point in the movie where he buys an infamously rare stamp that is super expensive.
The plane's upside down.
And then he uses it to send a letter. So I kind of feel that intrinsically devalues the work and destroys it, but they consider it legal as per the terms of the thing. So I kind of feel that he already failed at that point because he's destroying a work of art.
Not really. It's a stamp. He's using the stamp for what the stamp is used for.
So this is more that it falls under the intrinsic value that you get service in return for
If you use something for what it is, there's no rule broke, because he does that many times in the movie. Even if it's an expensive thing, if you use it for what it's for, it's intended purpose. It's fine. It's if he goes out of his way to, like, I don't know, take a $100 bill and use it as a cigarette. That doesn't work.
Oh, and we've completely left out the whole reason why his great uncle did this. Mm-hmm. It's because he's an asshole. Actually, yes, it is, but it's because
that whole setup was pretty funny.
It's all because that it's actually about two family lines, and that his father abandoned him for Richard Pryor's grandmother.
And he's the only relative he has left.
And he's the only relative he has left. And because he hated his father so much because of the one time he caught him smoking a cigar, he locked him in a closet until he smoked the entire pack of cigars.
Yeah.
So that he would learn that, no, I will not smoke cigars.
I was almost hoping at the end he was just going to show up and say, yeah, I was just messing with you.
I was just messing with you.
You can have the $300 million, but I just was watching the whole thing. I thought it was funny. I thought that would have been funny, but it just...
So the whole entire thing was to teach him a lesson that you're going to be sick of the money by the end of it.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what the movie is, kind of like showing, in a way, in a sense, kind of like the value of money itself, how it's meant to be used, how it shouldn't be used, and the proper way to use it.
And what he didn't seem to understand is that if you have a lot of money, it begets more money.
Yeah. Yeah, because he tried to just throw it away, more or less, and just, like, get it out of his face. But every time he did that, like, nope, that's just going to give you more. It's just going to bring more in. Even if you lose a little bit, the more you put in, the more you're eventually going to get out. So it's a cycle. It's going to keep going. Unless, of course, you know what the actual value of what the things you're buying are.
Yeah.
Which is what he has to learn by the end.
And really, honestly, he learned that for him, what he values the most is he values the game of baseball. Yeah. That he values his friendships. And that he values the love of a good woman.
It's funny, by the end, he's kind of the same person he was at the beginning, except now he's...
got $300 million because he wins at the end.
Well, besides that...
My only thing I didn't like about that part, is that John Candy, his best friend through the whole movie, who kind of left on a down note on the last night before, I'm just going to get drunk, was not read into it after the fact. Like, we didn't get any closing scene where it's revealed that, yeah, no, I had to spend the money.
Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go straight into that. That's my downside of the movie, is when it ended, I said, really? We couldn't have one more scene where he, like, just shows up and say, I was just kidding. I still got money. Everybody, let's go. And all the guys come back.
Like a victory lap?
Yes.
Like
that's what I wanted to see.
In a modern movie, it would have been the mid-credit roll.
Yeah, I wanted to see something like that. Like him just rolling up and saying, oh, by the way, I have money again. And he rehires the guys that he was using. What
if he had, like I'm spitballing here. It's John Candy's character told him, like, you know what? All the money you've been giving me, I've been saving it. We're going to buy a Corvette now that you're broke. And we're going to take a trip to California. We're going to get ourselves a cabin and do this, that, and the other. And just have a good time. Mm-hmm. Now, if the last scene was him showing up to John Candy with a Corvette and the woman that he now loves and going, hop on in, I got $300 million.
Something like that.
I would have been happy with that ending. Like the ending just felt like it ended abruptly, just so they could go, haha, he beat the clock.
Yeah, but it was like that, and also, like I said, like maybe like the reveal with his uncle was actually still alive, and
it did not close the loop properly.
I think it needed a bit more at the end. That was my problem. Was just like, oh really? I wanted to see more. I wanted like real closure on that aspect.
There is no closure. Yeah,
it just kind of like, okay, he won it, and it's over.
He beat the clock. I'm surprised they didn't do a freeze frame as he jumps in the air. It's like it.
Well, even that might have been more than this.
The ending is
fair. It's just him walking out of the office, basically.
So I guess that's the segue into the lowlights of the film.
That's pretty much
the ending is kind of abrupt, even though the whole story tells a complete story. It just once he beats that clock, boom, it's over.
It's satisfying in that it does close the story off, but it's like, with the amount of stuff that happened in it, you kind of want a little bit more, especially for the other characters who didn't know about it. You know what I mean? Especially some of them who are like trying to give him money at the end.
Yeah,
you know?
they were trying to give him money because they felt bad of taking advantage of him. Even though he was taking advantage of them by...
Yeah. Would have been nice to see like a reveal to them at the end or something like that. Like maybe even like a news reporter would have reported and they would have seen the reactions to it. You know, just something like that.
That's what I was expecting. I was
Something
expecting
like
them to do the
Because
big
we got that more than a few times during the movie for other things. So.
And I guess another down point of the movie, and it's about wanting more, is that it wasn't overly funny. It's like you're assuming Richard Pryor's there. It's like there's a laughable moments. There's stuff that you can laugh at, but it's not like laugh out loud, like nonstop.
It's not really a gag comedy.
It's a screwball comedy, but there's no screwballing to it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like it's mixing that element.
Yeah.
And it's played a little too straight.
To me, it kind of felt more just like a lighthearted drama more than it did a comedy, really. I mean, there's some comedic moments, but it's not really a comedy. The most comedy usually comes from like the absurdity of something he bought or is buying or tells somebody to do. That's usually
like literally the comedy came from, oh, remember that really bad idea you had?
Yeah.
Well, it paid off in spades.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's not. I don't really call it a comedy.
It's supposed to be a comedy, but it's not that funny.
I don't really think it is because there's no real jokes aside from that stuff, which actually is funny. So I don't really consider it a comedy. It just kind of feels more like a lighthearted.
Yeah, it's very lighthearted.
Like more of a lighthearted drama type thing. Again, it's this very specific type of movie they don't really make anymore, which we've covered many times. It's just,
I guess you would
not
say
really a comedy.
They struck out on this one when it came to the comedy. And knowing you get Richard Pryor to do this, you're like, okay, you're expecting a little bit more. It's like even if I go to like one of my ones I always enjoy that is which is funnier than this movie, but also is in the same vein of not being ribald. See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Gene Wilder. It's like, that's a funny movie, but it's not a dirty movie.
I'm not really sure if like that kind of humor really fit this film.
But that's what you're expecting with Richard Pryor. You're expecting that type of a comedy.
Well, in that case, he does kind of stretch himself a little because he's a lot more of a normal guy in this one who just kind of is down on his luck.
Candy doesn't even play the straight man. He plays the straight man.
No, that was part of the interesting part of it is Richard Pryor was the straight man and John Candy was kind of the goofball, which is not usually what you expect. But I thought
walking around with his gold chain with a catcher's mask on it.
They pulled it off really well. It was a little bit different than I was expecting, and it was well. I guess we might as well just shift over then. And what were your highlights of Brewster's Millions from 1985?
Now this is a little bit hard because I enjoyed the movie, but other than a couple of scenes, nothing really stands out. It's not a very memorable movie. I will say I enjoyed John Candy, but I always enjoy John Candy, so I feel like that's a cop out. Like even in the worst movies he's always enjoyable to watch.
I kind of enjoyed the back and forth with him trying to spend the money and him getting money back and trying to find new ways to get rid of the money. And eventually leading to the part where even you as an audience member is like, oh, just get rid of the money. I'm getting sick of the money. So even like you're like...
I like that gag, that recurring gag.
So even you at a certain point are just like, yeah, I'm kind of sick of money too. And then by the end of it, you're like, you know what? I kind of agree. Maybe he's right. Maybe the money isn't really that important.
No, it isn't. I like the message of the movie.
Mm-hmm. So it's
like I said, it's a hard movie because, well, what's your highlight? Is it similar to same?
It's more like I just like the entire vibe of the film and how it tries to get across the very simple message in such a simultaneously simple and yet extravagant way with the different ways they try to get rid of the money.
I liked the whole bit of him running for mayor to waste as much money as possible. Don't vote for me!
Yeah. Don't vote for me.
It's the worst idea you could do. Don't vote for me. I'm trying to buy your vote here, people.
And then by the end
of the movie, he's saying all the things that are like, yeah, you know what? The two people that are running are very corrupt.
And he has to drop out just to make sure that he doesn't get elected.
It's like, you're going to win the election, Mr. Brewster.
Yeah, that's why I had to drop out.
I have to drop out of this election.
Because otherwise it would be an asset, and he can't have an asset.
Like, I like that whole entire run. That whole bit, that whole gag worked out really well.
I also like the fact that it doesn't talk about it at all in the movie, which is really interesting, and I liked it. It was that it does that whole thing of when you have money, you know who your friends are, but it doesn't do it in the way you might expect, where it's not really talked about or expressed. It's just you see how the people react to him, both when he has money and when he doesn't have money. And you see the ones that are more
That's why I said it doesn't feel like it closed the loop with John Candy's character or any of the other
Which
ones
would
that
have
were
been
actually
nice
good.
after he got the money. It would have been to go to the people who were actually there for him and hire them.
Yeah.
That would have been really a nice way to wrap it up, I think. As it is, though, overall, I had a good time watching it. I had fun watching it.
Like if it had ended with him just going, "Hey Spike, I want to tell you about this crazy 30 days I just had, this crazy month that you were here for that you didn't know it all about."
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit more on that, but you know what? Still a good ride. I enjoyed my time watching it. So, Randy, let's get to the rating.
Oh, it's a very easy 3 out
would
of
you
5.
rate?
It's like I said, it's not overly memorable. It's an entertaining film. It's a good Saturday afternoon film, but it's nothing really special. I feel mean for saying that, but it's like it's nothing really special. It's just an entertaining run-of-the-mill film.
I can't really compare it to any of the other versions of the movie because I've never seen any of the other versions of the movie, and apparently 3 of them are lost, so I can really only go on this version.
One of the previous versions of the film was actually banned in one of a few states because the lead character was very friendly with a black man who was his sidekick, and it was before it was a segregation, so they banned it.
Well, I thought you said it got lost.
No. Those are 3 movies before that one.
How many of them were? Oh, never mind.
3 movies were lost, JD. One was a Cecil B. DeMille film. One of them had Fatty Arbuckle, and one of them was Mrs. Brewster's Millions, which got lost as well. And
this was probably the most well-known version of it because
this one and the 1950 something version are the most well-known.
Well, I would assume this one is because it's an 80s movie, and those seem to be the only ones people know anymore. But anyway, I would agree with it. I would give this one a 3. It's a good watch. It's a lot of fun. And I can definitely see why Walter Hill did it. It's a bit out of his territory.
Did it for the money.
Yeah, but it was a bit out of his territory. He never really did any movies like this before this, and he didn't really after this. But it definitely showed he could do it if he really wanted to. And I think he did a really good job. So I guess that's pretty much it for this one. There's not really a whole lot else to say other than if this sounds interesting to you, go watch it because you can't really talk about the movie otherwise. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time we continue our cruise of this sports movie catalog.
Sports!
Goodbye!
Goodbye.
photographer. Salary $10,000 a week. How would you like to be my personal driver for the next 30 days at $5,000 a week?
What a country. America, love it.
Hey, anybody want to go to lunch?
Everyone thinks he's crazy.
I want to bet $50,000. It went up. We'll sell it.
I think we should consider the possibility of psychiatric help.
At the rate you're going, you'll have spent your entire inheritance in less than a month, and you'll have nothing to show for it.
But $300 million says he's right on the money. Richard Pryor and John Candy.
It's like that old saying, you know, if for money I'd be a millionaire. I'm a millionaire.
Brewster's Millions. Coming soon from Universal Pictures.